Hello, everybody, Facebook world people. This is day 2 of my 30-day Facebook lives. And I think we're live. I don't know. But anyway, this is what we're going to do during these things. There'll be 30 minutes, and you can ask me questions anytime during the time that I'm talking about whatever topic we're talking about. And I love to answer, just seeing people who are logging in, just want to say hi. Yesterday, and I'm already doing it again, I can tell, but yesterday when I watched my first Facebook Live, I was like, I say a lot. So I'm going to try not to do that and just get to the point without all those ums, but I probably will do the same amount. Okay, so the topic today is victims of narcissistic abuse. Victims of narcissist abuse at the hands of narcissists most often feel really, really alone and isolated in their pain. And there's a reason for that. So I'll share a little bit. See, I already said I'll share a little bit about my story and my journey and what happened to me and why I felt so alone, and how, strangely enough, Facebook was actually one of the outlets, thank God for social media at the time and now, that saved me, because I can't imagine having to go through what I went through without anybody, without the internet to reach out to. Because when we're especially victims of emotional abuse, that is very insidious. It's like cancer. You don't know that you have it sometimes until it's too late. Even the victim herself or himself may not even know that they're victims. Unlike physical abuse, where you have a black eye or a broken bone to prove your pain, right? Emotional abuse victims don't have those outward physical shows of pain. So it can be extremely isolating. And on top of that, you have somebody, the narcissist, who is purposely and intently trying to make you feel like the crazy one. And so, for example, in my case, I didn't even know I was in a marriage for 16 years, and I had no clue until I actually escaped it that I was a victim in any way whatsoever, let alone of abuse on that scale, right? Because again, I didn't have bruises to show for it. And the other thing that narcissists will do is that crazy making, the gaslighting, where you feel like it's your fault that for what they do. You feel, for example, in my case, I did start to feel just crazy, and it got to a point where I couldn't even talk to my 2 best friends. I would tell them a little bit about, what I was going through with my husband at the time, and possibly, and like stuff he was doing. But I couldn't put it into words, right? Yes, Sarah Thompson, agreed. But I couldn't put into words what was going on. That was the crazy maker, and that's why narcissistic abuse is so devastating, and it's so hard to recover from, because of that sort of brainwashing and conditioning that we are subjected to. So for example, in my case, here, and this is where I want to break the stereotype of what a victim of abuse looks like, because it's not some weak, pathetic woman who is just a doormat and is like that from point A until the whole time. It's not like abusers come up to you on the first date and they're like, hey, guess what? I'm going to make you fall madly in love with me, right? I'm going to have children with you. I'm going to marry you. I'm going to promise you the world. I'm going to give you a feast. I'm going to love bomb the hell out of you and make you feel like I'm everything that you've ever dreamed of. And then I'm going to pull the rug out from under you, and I'm going to abuse you and hurt you in a way that you can never imagine. So obviously that doesn't happen on the first date. None of us would give those kind of butt heads. Am I allowed to cuss? I still don't know if I have to check. If somebody can let me know if I can cuss. So we wouldn't give them, you know, a first chance, a second chance, nothing, right? So I was an intelligent, that's my phone, ignore it. I was an intelligent, creative, strong woman when I got into this relationship, right? There were underlying issues going on, such, for example, that I had an abusive father who was a narcissist and set an example for me. But these were all unconscious stirrings in my mind that I didn't realize. So I went into this with what I thought was what were my eyes open. But narcissists are masters at manipulation and deceit and trickery. So they play these head games that you don't even know you're playing, right? So you're in a game that you don't even know is being played. And as time goes on, and you've already fallen hook, line, and sinker, you know, like in my case, just in with somebody, you invest your life in them, you possibly have children with them, you just dedicate, you know, devote your entire life to. So by the time these signs and these bigger signs, because there were always little red flags that we miss, we can catch those when we look back. But by the time that we finally see that, for example, like in my case, when the mask started to slip off of this man that I had, you know, devoted my heart, soul, and entire being to, it was really confusing because I didn't know this person. It was like all of a sudden there was a Jekyll and a Hyde going on, and I didn't know how to handle it. And so that, on top with what narcissists do as far as making you feel like you're the one with the problem, right? I remember, you know, feeling, especially in those past few years, I just felt like, okay, I must be going crazy. I'd look in the mirror. I had no idea who that woman was staring back at me. She had, you know, dark circles in her eyes. She couldn't sleep. Sometimes, some days she didn't even leave the house. She wasn't social anymore. I didn't even know who that woman was. I didn't know what I had turned into. And then I had the narcissist who was encouraging my craziness and telling me that it was all my fault, right? That I was the crazy one. And I was the troublemaker, and I was the problem. So the reason that, for example, we feel, hello from Italy, that's awesome. So the reason that we feel so alone, again, we don't have the physical bruises, whatever, to show for our pain, and we don't understand our pain, right? And we're being tricked at the same time. You know, we're being gaslighted and manipulated and lied to and deceived. So, for example, when I went to my friends, I didn't know what the problem was. So I didn't tell them much of what the deeper underlying stuff that was going on. You know, the fact that here, this man that I loved all of a sudden went from, I remember that's what I spent so many days in confusion, or what's called the fog, right? Of narcissistic abuse, because I remember thinking, wait, who's that guy? Like, wait, that's not the guy that I met those first couple of years I fell in love with. That's not, who's this guy? Because this guy is cruel and just mean as hell and can lie, cheat, and steal without blinking an eye. This was a guy who I would be just broken on the floor, sobbing, a mess, thinking to myself, I was the pathetic one. And he would just stand over me with the cruelest look, the coldest. A lot of you know about the narcissist glare, right? There's this glare where, so help me God, their eyes turn black. So help me God. And I know some of you know what I'm talking about. So this was the reason, is that I was just confused a lot, and I also didn't know what narcissists do is that outside those closed doors, right? So this is the pain that's happening behind the closed doors to both me and our children. Outside those closed doors, which I stopped, which I started, not going beyond because I started staying home a lot more. So he was the one going out in public and seeing our friends and so forth. The narcissist also has already been creating a smear campaign against you. So even if you go to family and friends, the narcissist has already convinced a lot of them that you're the one with the problem, right? So I remember some of like his family or some friends that were mutual friends, I would go and they would say I was just so confused all the time. And I'm not an extrovert. I'm quiet, and there's a very shy part of me. So and I had learned from a very young age from my father not to speak up. So I just usually remained silent in a lot of these situations where I would have, people who I thought knew me just say the strangest things to me, out of the blue. Like, for example, someone would say to me, "Oh, I know you're so, you must be so depressed living here." And we lived in a small town, and but the grass isn't greener on the other side. And I remember thinking, well, I guess, I mean, yeah, I guess, I don't know. Where'd you hear that? And why? No, wait. And I realized that later this man who I loved and trusted was creating this narrative about me so that people would believe that I was crazy and I was the problem. So when it came time to reach out, it was impossible for me to do so. First of all, I was like, okay, who's going to believe me? Because I don't even believe myself, right? Who's going to understand me and the pain that I'm in when I don't understand the pain that I'm in? So yes, Judith, when the masks start sliding for the first time and we're still high with the brain juices of the love bombing. Oh my God, that's a great description. Yes, that's exactly right. So once I started that journey of sort of looking outward, right? So there was no big aha moment that got me to leave my situation. But once I did, that's when I started putting pieces of the puzzle back together. And I'll tell you what, it was, and this started even before I left. This started for me on Facebook because my ex in particular, and narcissists do this, are known to be stalkers and very controlling and get into your shit, like everything. So I was already used to that with my ex, like in the marriage, for example, he had secretly put a recorder on our landline that I didn't know about. He was recording and listening to all my boring calls with my mother. Go figure. So what I did do when I just started, because I'm a writer and researcher by heart, and I like to find stuff out. I like to figure stuff out. I don't like if I'm confused about something or I'm, I just sort of put myself out there to figure it out. So what I started doing was I started on Facebook, and I started just looking around, and I had to be super careful because, like I just said, narcissists are notorious for stalking, and they're really good at it, like super good at it. So I couldn't even, at the time that I was in, I couldn't even like a comment. Like I would see somebody put a comment on about maybe a narcissist or about an abuser or just feeling alone or, journey of pain or whatever it was. I couldn't even like it because then he would see it and then I'd have to answer to it on and on and on. So I had to become very secretive, but Facebook actually, and then when I escaped, and a lot of you who have been watching my posts, especially a lot of my high school friends, because I disappeared from view there for a couple decades. And then when I came back out and I started talking, like I would put out cryptic little messages on Facebook that I was hurting. So if any of you were way back then, this is probably like 5 years ago, Thank you for, for not, for just being there for me. So when I started going into, I found secret groups, and then I wasn't even posting yet, because I was afraid, and my ex actually was on my computer at that point, even though I had left him. But at the same time, it was like, here I was in my, in my little house where I felt I couldn't talk to family. I couldn't talk to my friends. I had left everybody behind in the town that I lived in and came back to my hometown of Arizona, my home state of Arizona. And so I would read these stories of other women. I'm like, oh my God, that's my story. Oh my God, that's exactly what happened to me. And this is why I do what I do today, because I know that feeling of just being totally alone and just like nobody understands what I'm going through. And on top of it, you have, therapists, psychologists. I don't care if you have a master's degree or whatever. If there are more than enough therapists out there. I went through 3 of them that re-traumatized me all over again because they don't understand what it's like dealing with a narcissist. Another thing narcissists are masters at are fooling therapists, right? So I came to a point where it was like, I'm not even going back to a therapist because they just don't understand. And then you go back into the isolating feeling all over again, right? Because you're like, oh my God, even the therapist thinks it's my fault. Like, I literally had a therapist. She was a woman who was younger than me. She had just gotten her master's degree. She was really nice, but I remember the day that she actually, I think she should have been a kindergarten teacher because that's how she had that kind of kindergarten teacher voice. But I remember that because my ex was a master with the women. Oh my God, it was like sickening to watch. I watched it for years. I just stood back and I'm like, okay, here we go. And he was a dance teacher, so he could also like literally whisk them around the floor, like lift them off their feet, literally. So he just had this therapist, this woman, but she was done. She was gone. Like, I was like, should I leave the room? And she gave him a gold star. Meanwhile, she gave him a gold star for supposedly trying. Meanwhile, she's telling me that I needed to try harder, right? So I went home, thought, okay, why don't I just end this thing right now? I have to say that, and to all of you who have been there in that dark moment, the only thing that kept my car on the road some of those days when I was driving home was my kids. So I know that darkness. So when you have like what seems like the world who doesn't understand, it makes sense that you're just like, you're convinced that the narcissist was right? That it's your fault, you're the crazy one, you're the one with the problem, so just suck it up, sister, get over it, and just try harder in your marriage. I don't like it when people say that about marriage. Can I just put this out there? Marriage is not fucking hard. No, it's not hard work. You don't just stick it out at any expense, at any cost, just because you made a vow, like that's a legal piece of paper. F-bomb that. Okay, so yes, that's true. Yes. This is why I'm sharing my story, all of you. I'm just reading your comments right now. And yes, Vina, absolutely. You have to become your own authority on narcissistic abuse because, as it is pointed out, therapists can be narcissists, lawyers for sure. For sure. I mean, like the divorce process with a narcissist, holy shit, that is. So what happened with me is that I became my own advocate, right? Until I could find people, women who were farther down the road than me. And that's how I see it, is we're all on the same path, right? We're all on the same journey. Some of us are just still, wait, my video is back for a second. Some of us are still back here in the darkness, and some of us have made it to the light. Others are somewhere along the road, right? And it takes those of us who are ahead on the journey to throw that life preserver to those who are still in the darkness, right? Because that's what saved my ass is, you know, when going from feeling like you're all alone and isolated, which is a tactic, which is what abusers do. They do that. They isolate you on purpose, and they make you feel like you don't want to talk to anybody and don't want to even leave your house, so that the secret of them abusing you not only won't get out, but that you'll continue to put up with it, right? I'm going through the comments here. Yes, also not having the language, as Lara, to express your experience, right? So again, I mean, I was a smart, educated woman, and emotional abuse, like I didn't know anything about narcissists when I was in it. I thought I had heard the word narcissist, you know, because I had studied Greek myth. I just thought it was somebody who looked in the mirror a lot and took a lot of selfies. I had no idea it was on this other level, right? So that was my saving grace, is becoming my own advocate, finding people ahead on the road that could, you know, pull me out, right? Because that isolation that we're in, it's just devastating. It makes the abuse all the more intolerable. And then when we get out, we're on this, we're navigating two roads at the same time, right? So once we get out, we're navigating the road of recovery and healing, right? Like when you've been in a car accident, you have to just recover first, right? I remember there were days where I'm like, I just need to breathe. I need to like go out and feel the sun on my face. And I felt like I had got out of solitary confinement. And then the healing process begins. And then we're traveling this other road, this parallel road of learning all about narcissists, what they do, learning about what happened to us, learning the language, and again, so this is really important too, as far as when you're learning that language. For me, it was a comfort. You know, when I learned what gaslighting was, for example, I was like, oh, hot damn, I'm not crazy. Yay. So this was super important. One of the pieces I wrote early on, this was the first piece I wrote. Many of you know that I'm a writer. I've always been a writer first and foremost. So, and I was silenced in my marriage. I didn't write about these kind of things. I wrote about things that kept up the facade of what was going on. But so my first piece upon escaping was understanding the language of narcissistic abuse. And I knew I had hit on something because it was from all my studies and research. And, you know, like I say, when it comes to being a victim of emotional abuse at the hands of a narcissist, you can get your master's, you can get your friggin' PhD, you know what I mean? But I had the street cred. Like, I have been there and, you know, walked that walk. I have seen it firsthand, been in it, got my hands dirty, got my heart broken, and then I made it to the other side. So I know exactly what it takes, and that's not something you can learn in a book, right, in school. So the reason that I wrote this particular piece, Understanding the Language of Narcissistic Abuse, was twofold. First, because it helped me find my voice again, right, and put my truth out there and share my story. And that was really cathartic for me because I could connect with other people, because it's such a lonely feeling, especially when you first come out. And then the other crazy, fantastic, awesome thing that happened was this particular piece went viral all over the world, right? And within a day, I had like 500,000 views and 100,000 shares, and women and men from all over the world were filling my message inbox within 24 hours of this going live. So, and saying, you just told my story. You just told my story. I don't feel alone anymore. You just told my story. That's pretty much what everybody was saying. So I knew I had hit a nerve, because and why it is so important to understand the language, so that we can pull ourselves out and just, not feel so lonely, because it's enough, right? Like if you're in that pain now and still suffering, or somewhere along the journey, maybe you just left, maybe you left a while ago, but you just are struggling, because I'll say right now, the healing process is not linear, meaning that you don't go from A, B, C, D, A to Z. No, that shit ain't happening. It's like a roller coaster inside a washing machine. That's what healing is like. So if you're anywhere along it, that's why it's so important to reach out and find those people who, like I did when I was way back there in the darkness, is to find people who are further down the journey and sharing their stories. I'm going to look at because we just have a couple minutes left, and I want to make sure. I love all of your sharing your stories and experiences, and oh, I just love this so much. This is just so awesome. This is awesome. And everybody here, and the fact that we can connect together, and wherever you are in this journey, you can connect with one another. I love Facebook for that. Facebook has a lot of problems. I get it. And a lot of people use it for the wrong reasons, but this is for the best reason. I'm telling you, it saved my soul, saved my ass. Nobody's answered me if I can cuss. They're gonna put one of those like cartoon red things over my mouth. Oh, that's a good question. What do you feel is the future for narcissists who know that we are waking up? Good question. You know what my dream is, and I'm answering your question. This would be my dream, my dream come true, right? Is that we become so educated on just abusers in general, right? Physical, sexual, emotional, financial, psychological, whatever it is. We become so educated, not only on abusers, but we become so empowered, especially as women, obviously abuse has no gender, but women tend to are the majority of victims of abuse, right? So to imagine a world where all women are becoming so empowered and so knowledgeable about abuse and what it looks like, so that right at the beginning of an abusive relationship, we can spot it, right? So that what would happen to all the narcissists? Like they'd have to go to each other, I guess, or they'd be really lonely. I don't know. What if they couldn't find any supply? What would they do? I mean, I still, like I said yesterday, I still advocate for like them having their own island. But I don't know. I mean, would they turn on each other? Would they eat each other? But I think that would be awesome. And the fact that so many of us are waking up and talking about it is a great sign, first of all, right? Because any wound cannot heal if it is not exposed to the light, right? Darkness cannot exist in the light. So if we shine a light on it, it goes away. It doesn't exist anymore. So that would be my world. Like if I was in the Miss USA pageant and they asked that question, what would you want? I would not ask for world peace. I would ask for world awareness about abusers, specifically narcissists. So what would happen to them? I'll have to think about that. Maybe they would just like shrivel up like the Wicked Witch and just go away, or maybe if we poured water on them, I don't know. Hi James, I love you. Yes, they would eat each other. Oh my God, that's so funny. And Catherine Rogers says she feels like I should be able to swear. I agree. I agree. Hell yeah. Okay, so this is my second Facebook Live. Tomorrow will be my third of my 30-day Facebook Lives. For all of you who want to connect more. Oh, and also my book. If you'd like a free copy of my book, I'm going to have hard copies in my hands soon. And it'll be in bookstores next year, but I would be more than happy to send you a free copy of the Kindle of the ebook. So you can just go to my website at SusannaQuintana.com, which is on my Facebook page. Just click on that and it'll pop up on the homepage. Also, for any of you out there who, like I said, the most important thing is finding someone along the journey that's farther ahead that can sort of, reach in, grab your hand, and pull you out. I'm here for you. So if you'd like to hop on the phone and have a complimentary call with me and just chat and tell me more about what's going on with you, also go to my homepage and you can schedule that. So until tomorrow, sending much love to all of you, especially, really especially, I remember it like it was yesterday, and yet it feels like a million years ago. But I remember the feeling well of being in my house when I was with the narcissist, feeling totally alone. I was totally alone. And going into my computer when nobody was around and going and scrolling through Facebook, unable to even like anything, but just reading, just feeling good. And so if you're one of those who's just out there watching but can't do anything about it right now, just know that you're not alone. You are not alone. Look at all these beautiful people on the comment page that are here with you. So and you can always reach out to me via private message. I have a lot of, and this is a topic we need to talk about too, is how to, I said narcissists were stalkers, so I have fantastic tips to get around them. Because you know what? We're all smarter than the narcissist. We're all smarter than the narcissist. They tried to convince us that we're not, right? You can outthink them. You can outthink them. So sending love to all of you, and you're not alone, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Okay, ciao, ciao.